I would like to call the Committee of the Whole to order at 7:34 p.m. Present are council members Broussard, Williamson, Schuman, Limpert, Glassburn, Kelly, the mayor, the law director, finance director, the human resources director, planning and development director, and our council clerk, and our guest this evening. To start off with our committee of the whole, I'd like to begin tonight with asking the mayor to give council an update on the search for the safety service director and any other information that you were interested in sharing then about those departments.
Yeah, I've been working rather hard on it, and I hope to have an answer here early in November.
Thank you. Council members, any questions for the mayor regarding the search for the safety service director? Okay, seeing no questions, thank you. And now moving on to the next subject, our codification contract. Our clerk Mazzarillo had informed council that the codification contract is up at the end of this year. I know that he had provided to council several options for the members to review. And at this point, I'd like to ask our clerk to give that update verbally to council.
Thank you, Madam President. Basically, there's three options that I've kind of looked at. The first one is continuing with our current company that we use, which is Walter Drain. They've been recently purchased, it was last year, by American Legal Publishing, and so they're underneath that umbrella now, but they still use their name for the time being. And then there was, since American Legal Publishing has bought them, that really only leaves one other big codifier that I'm aware of, which is Minicode. And they gave us two potential options. Looking at both of those, and then also talking with Walter Drain, I'll let you guys kind of look at the proposals and kind of see what you guys think, but it'd be my recommendation that we continue working with Walter Drain, but that we look at maybe doing, instead of a 5-year contract, a 2 or a 3-year contract, just to give us some more time to kind of look into, to see what other options there might be out there, to see if this is the direction we still want to continue, since they are underneath new management at this time.
Thank you. I tend to agree with your assessment that it didn't seem like council, when we had talked a few weeks ago about handling things like agenda management, sometimes the codification can also come under some of those companies. And so since a lot of that stuff is still up for discussion with council over the next few years, a 5-year contract doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me either, especially if there's not any financial incentive for us to enter that contract for that length of time. Council members, any questions or opinions? Because codification is super exciting. There you go, Councilman Glassburn.
It is super exciting. It's important that we get our words right and make them available to the public. I just wanted to thank our clerk and council president for taking a look at this, and I agree with both of your assessments.
Thank you. So is there any objection then to for any of you, typically council sponsors legislation such as this together as a whole. So then at this point, unless there's any objection, I will ask our clerk to prepare that legislation then for, I'm not sure, Chuck, if you're able, if we're going to be able to have it ready for our next meeting, but definitely if we could have it ready at some point in November to go before council then, so we can vote on that legislation. Go ahead.
We be able to have it ready at that point. I would just need to get an idea if it's a preference of 2 years, 3 years, or the length that you guys would like it to be.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll throw out then for discussion right now a 2-year contract. Is there any objection to that, Councilman Schuman?
I agree. Shortest time as possible, I would think makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any major objections at this point from council then. So if you could please prepare that legislation for a 2-year contract. Thank you. Okay, and then the final topic for discussion at tonight's committee of the whole meeting is the elected officials' salary. We do need to discuss what we want to do with our elected official salaries. This is a process that our council undertakes every 4 years. For the at-large salaries, we pass this, their legislation at the end of the year preceding the upcoming election. So it's done in plenty of time before the election deadline. This time, the salaries that council will be considering are for the mayor, the finance director, the law director, the council president, and the ward council members. If we can come to an agreement, I'd like to get this on for the November 17th meeting agenda. So it could pass then on 3rd reading before the end of the year without suspension. And to begin our discussion tonight, I did ask Director Gallo to provide council information on what raises our employees are getting over the next 3 years, so we can consider the information as we have our discussion tonight. Please note that while Director Gallo will be providing us information on employees for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023, the salaries of the elected officials that I just mentioned are already set for 2021. And all elected officials, including those salaries who are not under discussion tonight, our at-large reps, are going to be getting a 2% raise for next year because that was written into the legislation. And because that is how our city sets compensation for our elected officials, we are therefore not able to then go in and change those rates while those people are then serving in those positions. This was something that we'd actually talked about during the charter review process, and so that was that. So I would like to ask Director Gallo if she could please update council on the employee salaries.
Yes, Madam President. So there will be no cost of living increases for the year 2021. There will be a 2.5% cost of living increase for 2022 and a 2.5% cost of living increase for 2023. Council has approved the firefighters contract. We're in the process of with the readings of the service contract, and at your next meeting we should have the AFSCME clerical technical contract before you. We are still in negotiations with dispatch, the FOP, police department, and corrections.
Thank you, Director. So at this point, and if there are any questions for Director Gallo, please feel free to ask at this point or at any point in our discussion tonight. I'd like to offer the opportunity for council members now to weigh in on the discussion. If there are any ideas of what you may want to bring to the table tonight for the salary discussion. Councilman Broussard.
Thank you, Madam President. I really just wanted to kind of offer a comparable historical perspective. So back in 2009, when I first began my city council journey, we were in the middle of a global recession. And so council and council president and the administration felt like they wanted to just kind of show support to residents that were struggling to not take pay raises during those 3-year periods that we were talking about. So if my memory serves me correctly, I believe we voted 0, 0, 0 for the 3-year period. And again, I'm not suggesting that we do that this time. I'm just kind of giving you some historical perspective, because I think that the economies in 2009 and today are probably pretty comparable, albeit for different reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn.
Thank you, Madam President. I was going to make comments to a similar effect. While we were not able to change any compensation levels in 21, a number of council members really went above and beyond in terms of COVID-related and charitable efforts in this year. I do think that the employee schedule, albeit 1 year delayed for us, of 0, and then the increases should be the ceiling of what we consider. And I would be personally supportive of anything that or lower, but I think that's probably the ceiling of where we should look. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lippert.
Yeah, I personally am complete agreement that something similar to 2019 is warranted. You know, I've in previous discussions looked at how can we potentially reduce the schedule, and typically conceded to try to stay aligned with the employee base, because that was kind of the wish of the administration. But I'm definitely in favor of a freeze for the current period or for the junction. I know my ordinance for us at large people are 2 years from now, but typically as a precedent, it typically follows from one salary ordinance to the next.
Thank you. You're right, Councilman Lippert. The councils that will come after us that will look at those at-large salaries do look back and try to bring some parity then to what the ward council people and the council president would be making salary rise at that time. That's correct. Are there any thoughts? I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman Glassburn.
I apologize. To be clear, Madam President, we're talking about a 4-year ordinance because of the term of office.
That is correct. We set the salaries for the 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Would anyone from the administration, from the elected officials among our administration, like to weigh into the discussion at this point? Director Kopfer.
I was here back in the last recession, and I would argue that one was worse because we had no idea when we were coming out of it, and it affected all of our property taxes and our income taxes. It affected all our revenue streams. I do think that this year is bad, and thank goodness we got the CARES Act monies to help offset. So I think we're in a position that we'll be able to be fine next year with a 0. And remember, in 2008 and 9, we laid off 5 police, 5 fire, several service people and did furloughs like over 10% for our employees. And so I believe it was worse, and I don't feel this is exactly the same. And I mean, I'm, ask Michael, I'm the first one to be crying. So I'm not ready to say that it's the same as and as deep as the last time, because we feel that with a zero, we can keep our operations going for next year, and we're in a better position than we were back then. So that's the one thing that I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Limpert, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just trying, I did, but I was trying to react to the finance director's comments. From what she's saying, it sounds more in line with, sort of a temporary, assuming council still feels, a reduced increase or a freeze. It sounds like it would be for maybe a partial term, and then going back is what I was gathering from what the finance director was proposing or commenting on, I should say.
Thank you. Mayor Kennedy and then Director Garreau.
Madam President, I just want to chime in before I have to leave and just say I'm fine with whatever you guys decide to do.
Thank you. Director Garreau.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to note that, as I recall, I think it's 90 days. I don't have the charter with me. I'm at home, and I didn't have a chance to look it up. But I think it's 90 days before the filing deadline is the requirement that you have the ordinance in place. Another possibility to this, because the situation is financially is changing so rapidly, is you do have a little bit of time. And I know that 2 or 3 months may not seem like it makes a large difference, but it might. You might know more in where we are in February than where we are in October in terms of the future. That's not to say that everybody's going to get a 3% pay raise, but it might help to crystallize financially what it looks like the damage is going to be from the current pandemic, because God willing, we'll be coming hopefully out of the pandemic in March, hopefully. But that's just an observation. So there's a little bit of time, but of course it's your pleasure if you wish to proceed now. Of course, I would, what your suggestion is equally fine. So just wanted to make that observation.
Thank you. And I agree with you that that at this point we're working with, a lot of questions, I guess you would say, and we don't know not only what's going to happen with the pandemic, but then also financially with the city. I think, that's definitely the top concern for everyone involved here. We want to make sure that the city is financially secure. And I think you are absolutely correct that we do not have to set these salaries before the end of the year. I would say, though, that I think most council members traditionally have felt more comfortable voting on items like this before the election year commences, just because if there are people who, are running for office and then they're making decisions based on, positions that they might be running for, again, traditionally, I think that's why we undertake this at this time. So. But absolutely, if it's council's pleasure to wait, obviously we can do that as well. Councilman Schuman.
The situation is so fluid right now. We've got these numbers, these COVID numbers going up. We could have a really bleak winter coming up, and that could cause a stock market crash. It could cause real estate property values to crash. There's a lot of ifs right now. I'd be real comfortable waiting as long as possible before we decide what we're going to do. I know that this isn't a make or break for the city or anything, but I mean, February, if we could wait longer than that'd be nice, because we really don't know what's going to happen. And this could be, we could be in a lockdown again real soon here, folks, and that could be devastating for the economy. I mean, I know a lot of folks that are pulling their money out of the stock market and putting it in cash and burying it underneath their, their decks. I mean, there's a lot of ifs right now. So I'd be more comfortable waiting than I would be voting on this before the end of the year. Just my opinion. But again, I'm not doing this for the money, so I'm comfortable with whatever all the council decides. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts at this point from council? Councilman Lippert.
Madam President, I'm just saying I think with the law director's thought process makes sense, at least for a month or so until we get close to where we're planning for 2020 budgets. That would still give us enough time probably to vote within this this calendar year. Was the intention to put this on for voting within this next cycle on the agenda for?
No, not until the 17th. So the second meeting in November was the thought on that. So you're right. We would probably be in the midst of getting the budget information and have a little bit more information at our fingertips as far as the city goes financially at that point, and that's fine. Again, I really just wanted to make sure that we're all thinking about this and that it's at, that we're having these discussions, as much discussion as anyone wants to have on these types of topics, so that nobody feels like they weren't able to weigh in properly. I will say that obviously our city administration has gone forward and has negotiated in good faith with our different unions that represent our employees here in the city, and they've obviously made decisions over the next few years for them. So I'm confident that council will undertake the same structure and be able to do that for setting elected officials' salaries as well. I'm not concerned that we won't be able to make those decisions, and like I said, that's why I wanted to make sure that we started talking about this now. There's no legislation prepared yet, so council members are able to weigh in and get all of our ideas out for as many meetings as it takes. Any other additional comments or thoughts at this point? Okay, so seeing none, we will conclude our Committee of the Whole meeting at 7:57 p.m. Thank you.